Hello everyone. Welcome back to the course of Software Architecture and Design Patterns SADP. This is our fifth video on SADP. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions in association with Redefined Solutions. This is Arvind Egireddy from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. In this video, we will discuss about achieving quality for the attributes using some tactics. So coming to achieving qualities, we need to use some tactics. So here we need to understand what is the imparts probability of one design and high performance to another and integrability to a third. So the achievement of these qualities relies on the fundamental design decisions, and we will examine these design decisions which we call them as tactics. So a tactic is a design decision that influences the control of the quality attributes response. We call a collection of tactics an architectural strategy and an architectural pattern package tactics in a fashion. So a system design consists of collection of decisions, and some of these decisions help us to control the quality attributes response, and others will ensure achievement of the system functionality. So in this session, we will discuss about the quality attributes decisions which are known as a tactics, and we represent this relationship as shown in this particular figure. So here the tactics are those that the architects have been using for years, and we isolate and describe them. We are not inventing tactics here, just we are capturing what the architects do in practice. So each tactic is a design option for the architect. For example, one of the tactics introduces the redundancy to increase the availability of the system. So this is one option the architect has to increase the availability, but not the only one. Usually achieving high availability through redundancy implies a association needed for synchronization, so as to ensure that the redundant copy can be used in the original files. So we see two immediate consequences of this example. One is tactics can refine other tactics. So here we identify the redundancy as a tactic. As such, it can be refined into redundancy of data or redundancy of computation. So here both redundancy of data and redundancy of computation are also tactics. So there are further refinements that a designer can employ to make each type of redundancy more concrete. For each quality attribute that we discuss, we organize the tactics as a hierarchy. And the second consequence is patterns package tactics. So here, a pattern that supports the availability will likely use both the redundancy tactics and the synchronization tactics. So it will also likely use more concrete versions of these tactics at the end of this particular session. So we organize the tactics for each system quality attributes as a hierarchy, but it is important to understand that each hierarchy is intended only to demonstrate some of the tactics, and that any list of these tactics is necessarily incomplete. So for each of the 6 attributes that we elaborated in our previous video, that is availability, modifiability, performance, security, testability, and usability, we will discuss tactical approaches for achieving it. So for each, we present an organization of the tactics and the brief discussion. So here, the organization is intended to provide the path for the architect to search for the appropriate tactics. First one is availability tactics. So now let us recall the vocabulary for the availability from what we have discussed in our previous video. A failure when occurs, the system no longer delivers a service that is consistent with its specification. So this failure is observable by the system's users. A fault or a combination of fault has the potential to cause this failure. And also recall that the recovery or repair is an important aspect of an availability. And the tactics that what we are going to discuss in this session will keep faults from becoming failures, or at least bound the effects of the fault to make repair possible. So we illustrate this in the figure 2 shown here. This depicts the goal of availability tactics. All approaches to maintaining the availability involve some type of redundancy, some types of health monitoring to detect the failure, and some type of recovery when the failure is detected. And in some cases, the monitoring or recovery is automatic, and in others it is manual. So many of the tactics we discussed are available within the standard execution environments such as operating system, application servers, and database management systems. So it is still important to understand the tactics used so that the effects of using a particular one can be considered during the design and evaluation. So here, all approaches to maintaining the availability involves some type of redundancy and some type of health monitoring to detect the failure, and some type of recovery when a fault is detected. So as we have seen that in some cases the monitoring or recovery is automatic, and in others it is manual. So in this figure 3, we can see the summary of the availability tactics. Now here we first consider the fault detection, then we consider the fault recovery, and finally fault prevention, and in between we see recovery reintroduction. So three widely used tactics in that. The first one is fault detection. So here in this fault detection, three widely used tactics for recognizing the fault are ping or echo, heartbeat, and exceptions. First, ping or echo. So one component issues a ping and expects to receive back an echo. So within a predefined time from the component under the scrutiny. So this can be used with a group of components mutually responsible for one task. Coming to heartbeat, this is called as a dead man timer. So in this case, one component emits a heartbeat message periodically and another component listens for it. If the heartbeat fails, the originating component is assumed to have failed and the fault correction component is notified. So here the heartbeat can also carry the data. And the third one, exceptions. So here the exception handler typically executes in the same process that introduced the exception. Coming to the second one, that is fault recovery. So here fault recovery consists of preparing for recovery and making the system repair. Some preparation and repair tactics are as follows: voting, achieving redundancy, passive redundancy, spare. Coming to voting, here the processes running on redundant processes each take equivalent input and compute a simple output value that is sent to a voter. So if the voter detects deviant behavior from a single process, it fails it. Coming to achieve redundancy, which is called as hot restart. So here all redundant components respond to events in parallel. So the response from only one component is used and the restart are discarded. So active redundancy is often used in client server configuration such as database management system where quick responses are necessary even when the fault occurs. Coming to the third one, that is passive redundancy. So here this passive redundancy is called warm restart or dual redundancy or triple redundancy. So here one component responds to events and informs the other components of the state which updates they must make. So when the fault occurs, the system must first ensure that the backup state is sufficiently fresh before resuming services. And coming to the fourth one, that is a spare. So here a standby spare computing platform is a configuration to replace many different failed components. It must be rebooted to the appropriate software configuration and have its state initialized with a failure occurs. And there are tactics for repairing that rely on component reintroduction. So this recovery reintroduction. So when the reintroduced component fails, it may be reintroduced after it has been corrected. So such tactics are shadow operations which states the state resynchronization and rollback. So here for recovery reintroduction, we have shadow, state resynchronization and rollback. So the first one is shadow operation. So a previously failed component may be run in a shadow mode for a short time to make sure that the mimics the behavior of the working component before restoring it to service. Coming to the state resynchronization, the passive and active redundancy tactics required the component being restored to have its state upgraded before it returns to the service. And coming to rollback, so this rollback is sometimes also called as checkpoint. So here a checkpoint is a recording of a consistent state created either periodically or in response to the specific events. So sometimes a system fails in an unusual manner with the detectable inconsistent state. So in this case, the system should be restored using a previous checkpoint of a consistent state and a log of transaction that occurred since the snapshot was being taken. Coming to the fourth one, that is fault prevention. So the following are some of the fault prevention tactics. One is the removal from service, transitions, and process monitor. Okay, so here what is removal from service? So this tactic removes the components of a system from operations to undergo some activities to prevent the anticipated failures. Coming to the second one, that is transactions. So here the transaction is the building for several sequential steps such that the entire bundle can be undone at once. So here transactions are used to prevent any data from being affected in one step in a process fails and also to prevent the collision among several simultaneous threads that are accessing the same data. Coming to the process monitor. So here, once a fault in a process has been detected, a monitoring process can delete the non-performing process and create a new instance of it, initializing to some appropriate state as it is a separate tactics. Now, Coming to the second kind of tactics, that is modifiability tactics. Here, once again, recall from the previous video that the tactics to control the modifiability have as their goal controlling the time and cost to implement, test, and deploy the changes. So here, this figure 4 shows the relationship. Here we are going to organize the tactics for modifiability in sets according to their goals. So one set has its goals reducing the number of modules that are directly affected by a change, and we call this as an localized modifications. And a second set has its goals limiting modifications to the localized module. So we use this set of tactics to prevent the ripple effect, which implies in the distinction is that there are modules which are directly affected, those whose responsibilities are adjusted to accomplish the changes, and modules indirectly affected by changing those whose responsibilities remain unchanged but whose implementation must be changed to accommodate the directly affected modules. And a third set of tactics has its goal controlling the deployment time and cost. So we call this set differ binding time. Now, let us see the summary of the modifiability tactics. So although there is not necessarily a precise relationship between the number of modules affected by set of changes and the cost of implementing those changes, restricting modifications to a small set of modules will generally reduce the cost. So here in localized modifications, the first one, the goal of tactics in this set is to assign the responsibilities to the modules during designs such that the anticipating changes will be limited in scope. So here we identify 5 such tactics. One is semantic coherence, anticipate expected changes, generalize module, limit possible options, and abstract common service. So coming to first one, that is maintain semantic coherence. So here the semantic coherence refers to the relationship among the responsibilities in the module. So the goal here is to ensure that all these responsibilities work together without excessive reliance on other modules. Coming to anticipate expected changes, here considering the set of envisioned changes provided, which provides a way to evaluate a particular assessment of responsibilities. So here in reality, this tactic is difficult to use by itself since it is not possible to anticipate all the changes. And the third one is generalize the module. So making a module more general allows it to compute a broader range of functions based on the input. And the fourth one is limit possible options. So here modifications, especially within the product line, may be far ranging and hence affect many modules. So restricting the possibility options will reduce the effect of these modifications. Fifth one is abstract common services. Now coming to the second one, that is prevention of ripple effect. So here a ripple effect from a modification is the necessity of making changes to the modules not directly affected by it. For example, for instance, if module A is changed to accomplish a particular module then module B is changed only because of the changes to the module A. So here module B has to be modified because it depends in some sense on module A. So we begin our discussion of the ripple effect by discussing the various type of dependencies that one module can have on another. Here we identify 8 types. One is syntax of data service, semantics of data service, sequence of data control, identifying of an instance of A, location of A at runtime, quality of service or data provided by A, existence of A, and resource behavior of A. I mean A here is module A. So with this understanding of dependency types, we can now discuss tactics available to the architects for preventing the ripple effect for certain types. That is hide information, maintain existing interface, restrict communication, paths use an intermediary. So here hide information, that is the first one, hide information. So information hiding is the decomposition of the responsibilities for an entity into smaller pieces and choosing which information to make private and which to make public. So the goal is to isolate changes within one module and prevent changes from propagation to others. Coming to maintain existing interface. So it is difficult to mask the dependencies on the quality of data or quality of services, resource usage or resource ownership. So interface stability can also be achieved by separating the interfaces from the implementation, so that this allows the creation of abstract interfaces that masks the variation. Coming to restrict communication paths. So here this will reduce the ripple effect since data production or consumption introduces dependencies that causes the ripples. And the last one, that is use of intermediary. So here, if module B has any type of dependency on module A other than semantics, it is possible to insert an intermediary between module B and module A that manages the activities associated with the dependency. Now, coming to the third one, that is a differ binding time. So the two tactics categories what we have discussed so far are designed to minimize the number of modules that require changes to the implement modifications. That is the two tactics like logical changes and prevention of ripple effect. These are designed to minimize the number of modules that require the changes to implement modifications. But here the third one, that is differ binding time. So here our modifiability scenario includes two elements that are not satisfied by reducing the number of modules to be changed. That is time to deploy and allowing non-developers to make the changes. So here differ binding time supports both of these scenarios at the cost of requiring additional infrastructure to support the late binding. So decisions can be bound into the executing systems at various times, and we discuss those that affect the deployment time. So here the deployment of a system is dictated by some process. When a modification is made by the developer, there is usually a testing and distribution process that determines the time lag between the making of the changes and the availability of that changes to the end user. So here, binding at runtime means that the system has been prepared for the binding and all of the testing and distribution steps have been completed. So differing binding time also supports allowing the end user or a system administrator to make settings or provide input that affects the behavior. So here, many tactics are intended to have impact on the load time or runtime, such as the following. One is runtime registration, configuration files, polymorphism, component replication, at attendance to define the protocols. Coming to the first one, that is runtime registration, which supports plug and play operations at the cost of additional overhead to manage the registration. Configuration files are intended to set the parameters at startup. Polymorphism allows late binding of method calls. Component replacement allows load time binding. Adherence to defined process allows runtime binding of independent processes. Now, coming to the third tactics, that is performance tactics. So here performance tactics controls the time within which the response is generated, and the goal of the performance tactics is shown in this particular figure 6. So after an event arrives, either the system is processing on the event or the processing is blocked for some response. So this leads to two basic contributions to the response time. One is resource consumption and the block time. Here, resource consumption, for example, a message is generated by one component, is placed on the network and arrives to an other component. So each of these phases contributes to the overall latency of the processing of that particular event. And the second one is block time. So here a component can be blocked from using a resource because of the contention for it, because the resource is unavailable or because the computation depends on the results of the other computations that are not yet available. So here contention for resources, availability of resources and dependency on other computations are the causes for block time. Now coming to the summary of performance tactics. Here the first one is the resource demand, second one is resource management, and the third one is resource arbitration. Coming to the first one, that is resource demand. Event streams are the sources of resource demand. So here the two characteristics of the demand are the time between the events in the resource stream and how much of resource is consumed by each requester. So one tactic for redundancy latency is to reduce the resource required for processing and event semantics. So here we have increased computational efficiency, reduce computational overhead, manage event rate, control frequency of sampling. First one, increase computational efficiency. So one step in the process of an event or a message is applying some algorithm. So improving the algorithm used in the critical areas will decrease the latency. So this tactic is usually applied to the processors, but it also affects when applied to other resources such as disk. And the second one is reduce computational overhead. So if there is no request for the resource processing needs are reduced. So the use of intermediary increases the resource consumption in process to an event stream, and so removing them, which improves the latency. So this is another tactics for reducing latency, which is used to reduce the number of events processed, and this can be done in two fashions. One is by using the management event rate, and the other by using control frequency of sampling. So manage event rate. So it is possible to reduce the sampling frequency at which environment variables are monitored, demand, and can be reduced. Coming to the control frequency sampling, if there is no control over the arrival of externally generated events, queued requests can be sampled at the lower frequency, possibly resulting in the loss of requests. So, other tactics for reducing or managing the demand involves controlling the use of resource. So here, bound execution times, which place the limit on how much execution time is used to respond to an event. Sometimes this makes sense and sometimes it does not. And bound queue size. This controls the maximum number of queued arrivals and consequently the resources used to process the arrivals. And coming to the second one, that is resource management. So here, even though the demand for resource may be not controllable, the management of these resource affects the response times. So here, some resource management tactics are: introduce concurrency, maintain multiple copies, increase availability resource. Coming to the first one, that is introduce concurrency. So if requests can be processed in parallel, the block time can be reduced. Coming to maintain multiple copies of either data or computations, clients in a client server pattern are replicas of the computation. So the purpose of replicas is to reduce the contention that would occur if all the computations took place at the central server. Then coming to increase availability resource. So faster processors or additional memory and faster networks all have the potential for reducing the latency. So these are the different resources, that is additional processors, additional memory, and fast network and fast processors. All these are the causes for increased available resource. Coming to the last one, that is the resource arbitration. So here, first in, first out, FIFO queue, which treats all requests for the resource as equals and satisfies them in turn. So here, fixed priority scheduling. So here, fixed priority scheduling assigns each source of resource request to particularly priority and assign these resources in the priority order. So these priority order have three common prioritizations. One is semantic importance. So here, coming to semantic importance, each stream is assigned a priority which is statistical according to some domain characteristics of the task that generates it. And next one is deadline monotonic. So here, coming to the deadline monotonic, which is a statistic priority assessment that assigns the higher priority to stream with shorter deadlines. Next, rate monotonic. Here, rate monotonic is a static priority assessment for periodic streams that assigns the higher priority to streams with shorter periods. So these are the different policies. Next policy is round robin. So round robin is a scheduling strategy that orders the requests and then at every assessment possibility assigns the resource to the next request in that order. And the other policy is earliest deadline first. So here in this earliest deadline first assigns the priorities based on the pending requests with the earliest deadline. And the last policy is static scheduling. Here the cyclic executive schedule is a scheduling strategy where the preemptions point that the sequence of assignment to the resource are determined offline. So here in resource arbitration, the different scheduling policies what we see is first in first out, fixed priority schedule, deadline monotonic, rate monotonic, round robin, earliest deadline first, and static scheduling. Now coming to the fourth one, that is security tactics. Here the tactics for achieving security can be divided into those concerned with resisting attacks, those concerned with detecting attacks, and those concerned with recovering from attacks. So all three categories are very, very important. So using a familiar analogy or putting a lock on our door is a form of restricting an attack. And having a monitoring or a motion sensor inside our house is a form of detecting an attack. And having insurance is a form of recovering from an attack. So here this figure 8 shows the goal of the security tactics. Now coming to the summary of security tactics, we have resisting attacks, detecting attacks, and recovering from an attack. So first one, that is resisting attack. So the following tactics can be used in combining or a combination to achieve the goals of resisting attacks. One is authentication users, authorized users, maintain data confidentiality, maintain integrity, limit exposure, limit access. So first one is authenticate users. So here authentication is nothing but it is ensuring that the users or remote computers is actually who is purports to be. Passwords, on-time passwords, digital certification, and biometric identification are the main causes for providing the authentication. Next, authorize users. So authorization is ensuring that an authenticated user has the rights to access and modify either data or services. So here the access control can be by user or by class. Third one is maintain data confidentiality. So here the data should be protected from unauthorized access. So confidentiality is usually achieved by applying some form of encryption to the data and to communication links. Here encryption provides an extra protection to persistently maintain the data beyond the availability from authorization. And the fourth one is maintain integrity. So here data should be delivered as intended. It can have redundant information encoded in it, such as checksums or hash results, which can be encrypted either along with or independently from the original data. And the fifth one is limit exposure. So here attacks typically depend on exploring a single weakness to attack all the data and services on the host. So the architects can design the allocation of services to hosts so that the limited services are available to each host. And the last one, that is limit access. So here the firewalls restrict access based on the message sources or destination port. So here the messages from unknown source may be a form of an attack. So it is not always possible to limit access to a known sources. And the second one is detecting attacks. So the detecting of an attack is usually through an instruction detection system. Such systems would be comprising network traffic patterns to the database. So in the case of misuse detection, the traffic pattern is compared to the historic patterns of the known attacks. So in the case of anomaly detection, the traffic pattern is compared to the historical baseline of itself. So frequently, the packets must be filtered in order to make the comparisons. Here, the filtering can be on the basis of the protocol, TCP flags, payload sizes, source or destination addresses, or port numbers. So here, instruction detectors must have some sort of sensors to detect the attacks, managers to do sensor fusion, database for storing the events for later analysis, tools for offline reporting and analysis, and a control console so that the analysts can modify instructions for detection actions. And coming to the third one, that is recovery from an attack. So here the tactics involved in recovery from an attack can be divided into those concerned with restoring the state and those concerned with attacker identification. So here the tactics used in restoring the system or a data to a correct state overlap with those used for the availability, since they are both concerned with recovering a consistent state from an inconsistent state. So one difference is that special attention is paid to maintain the redundant copies of the system, administrative data such as passwords, access control list, domain names, services, and user profile data. So here the tactics for identifying an attacker is to maintain an audit trail. So here an audit trail is a copy of each transactions applied to the data in the system together with identifying the information. So here the audit information can be used to trace the actions of an attacker, support reproductions, and support system recovery. So here the audit trails are often attacked targets themselves and therefore should be maintained in an trusted fashion. Coming to the testability tactics, the next tactics. So here the goal of the tactics for the testability is to allow for easier testing when an increment of software development is completed. So here this figure 10, which displays the use of tactics for testability. So we discuss two categories of tactics for testing: providing input and capturing output, and internal monitoring. So here input output. So there are three tactics for managing input output for testing. One is record or playback, separate interface from an implementation, specialized access routines or interfaces. So here coming to the first one, that is record or playback. So here record or playback refers to both capturing the information across the interface and using it as an input into this test harness. So here the information crossing or the interface during the normal operations is saved in some repository. So here recording this information allows test input for one of the components to be generated and test outputs for the later comparisons to be saved. Coming to separate interface from implementation, here separating the interface from the implementation allows a substitution of implementation for various testing purposes. So here stubbing implementations allow the remainder of the system to be tested in the absence of components being stubbed. Now coming to the third one, that is specialized access routines or interfaces. So having specialized testing interfaces which allow the capturing or specifying the variable values for the computation through a test harness as well as dependency from its normal execution. So here specialized access routines and interfaces should be kept separate from the access routes and interfaces for required functionality. And coming to the internal monitoring. So here we see built-in monitors. So the components can maintain state performance, load, capacity, security, and other information accessible throughout an interface. So this interface can be a permanent interface of a component or it can be introduced temporarily. So a common technique is to recover events when monitoring the states have been activated, and monitoring states can actually increase the testing effort since tests may have to be repeated with the monitoring turned off. So here increased visibility into the activities of the component usually more than the overwhelm of the cost of the additional testing. Now the last tactic what we are going to use is usability tactics. So here the usability tactics, two types of tactics support usability, each intended for two categories of users. The first category, runtime, which includes those that support the user during the system execution. And the second category is based on the iterative nature of the user interface design and supports the interface developers at the runtime. So it is strongly related to the modifiability tactics which is already presented. So here we see in figure 2 the goal of runtime usability tactics. So here coming to the summary of runtime usability tactics. Here in the runtime usability tactics, we maintain a model for a task. So in this case, the model maintained is the task. So here the task model is used to determine the context so that the system can have some idea of what the user is attempting to provide various kinds of assistance. For example, knowing that sentences usually start with capital letters would allow an application to correct a lowercase letter in that particular position. So here maintaining a model of a user. So in this case the model maintained is of the user. So here it determines the user's knowledge of the system, the user's behavior in terms of expected response time, and other aspects specifying the user or a class of users. So here, for example, maintaining a user model allows the system to pass the scrolling so that the pages do not fly past factors that they can be read. So here, maintaining a model of the system. So here, in this case, the model maintained is that of the system which determines the expected system behavior so that appropriate feedback can be given to the users. Here, the system model predicts the items such as the time needed to complete the current activities. Now coming to the design time tactics. So here, the separate the use of interface from the rest of the application. So here, localizing expected changes is the rationality of the semantic coherence. Since the user interface is expected to change the frequently both during the development and after the development. So maintaining the user interface code separately will localize the changes to it. So here the software architecture patterns developed to implement the tactics and to support the modification of user interfaces. So here this can be done by using model view controller, presentation abstraction control, CHIM or RKey and Slinky. So that's all for now. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for the latest notifications. Thank you all.